So let's talk about the roles and responsibilities. I need your help on this one.
Okay.
You do quite a bit at FTB. You manage across the board, top down, across the board. So management and sponsor, their role is to enable and empower the team, give them the resources, provide governance on information assurance, application performance, network performance, provide some governance and guidelines.
I can't stress enough how important that management support is. So I'll talk a little bit about that with some challenges when I come up in a few minutes.
Business owners, our product line managers, they should set practical timelines for the teams, for the development teams, for security teams, for validation teams. Make sure, and the focus on CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability. Availability is part of functional requirement, but it's also part of security requirement, right? There's an overlap. Monitor the key performance indicators. How is the team doing? Have checkpoints. CSO, CISO, and security team, they should work with members of the organization to embed security practices. First, before they do that, they should develop a security strategy. What do we need for our organization? They should develop a security architecture. They should develop a system security plan. That will be developed along working with the teams, working the product teams. Have security awareness training, secure coding training. How do you teach your developers about secure coding, about code reuse, give them real-life examples. Solution architect, security architect, developers, and validation teams. They should ensure that the requirements that are defined, the security requirements, functional requirements, are translated into the design, right? Into the architecture. They should go through the threat modeling exercise and say, hey, these are the crown jewels we're trying to protect. So we need this level of security. This is what we need to do. Yeah, I'd like to talk about threat modeling. So, and SWOT exercise, you heard about that. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's part of threat modeling. Where is your application strong? What are the weaknesses? Which crown jewels can be exploited? How do they pivot? Will they be able to pivot from my application, my system, out into the network? Happens all the time. It's something as simple as your physical camera servers that are there. In 2015, we did an assessment that we were actually able to pivot into the network through their physical security, the CCTV cameras. It was done at a high security facility. I should leave it at that. I can't go into any more detail. Then roles of the ITSM, IT service management, incident response, procurement, legal. Implement app security into your IT service management processes. Train operations on, hey, don't give out personal information. Have these validation checkpoints. If there's somebody calls and says, oh my God, I'm stuck in Hawaii and I need to pay this, but what do I do? Well, there's a validation checkpoint they need to go through. Oh my God, yeah, thank you. And then, of course, the ISA validation verification. Challenges, resistance to change, pushback from the team. They'll throw up their ACE cards, oh, it's going to impact functionality, it's going to impact costs. Not really. You're helping functionality, you're helping to keep the costs in line. Next one, security ownership, finger pointing. Everybody thinks the security team owns, thank you, the security team owns security, but it's everybody that owns security. Buy-in, Denise is going to talk about that. ROI calculation. On one of the big projects that I worked, we're deploying scanners across the company. And this particular manufacturing plant in the Midwest, the GM for the plant did not want to spend any money on scanners. He said, we have our own IT team. You guys don't worry about it. You guys are up in California. You guys don't know what we're doing. My team knows what we're doing. I said, OK, fine. You pick your battles when you're security, right? We're doing across the corporation. About 4 months into deployment, I get a call Sunday night. And it's a true story. I get a call at 9:30 Sunday night from the GM. And he goes, hey, how come we have an exploit in our environment? I go, I don't know. You told me not to look at your environment. You didn't give me funding. his next response was, what do you need to make it happen? And I need it in the next 2 days. He spent about 12 times more money than what he would have spent had he given me that funding and the response and the resources 3 months before that. Literally, we had to pull people from the other part of the project because we still care about the company, right? So literally in about 2 to 4 days, we had the environment up and running, had completed the scans, identified the issue, and resolved it. But all that could have been avoided that had he worked with us about 3 months before. So benefits, I won't go through the slides because we're running out of time, but we can talk about experience at FTB.
All right. I want to spend just a few minutes with you talking about our experience at FTB with building security into the life cycle. So I did get a list of attendees, but I'm curious to know how many of you are on the IT side or the information security side, you have a technology background, by show of hands. Okay, so about half the room. The rest of you, would it be fair to say you're more of a business perspective and interested in that? Okay, so I'm going to try to address both. At FTB, we're a large organization, and you may think that what we have might not apply to you if you're with a smaller organization, but I'm going to argue that it does because there are lessons to learn. So we are a fairly centralized organization when it comes to IT and our security. That doesn't mean that if you're decentralized, you can't learn from some of this because there are lessons in this for you as well. We have been part of the requirements lifecycle process for our IT projects and our business projects as well. Not so much. We've matured a little bit on that for over 15 years now. So now we have SAM, though, that says every system must have a security plan, right? So that's one way to get your foot in the door if you're not currently in that life cycle. But we also have the project development life cycle process, and there are security checkpoints built into that. So tip number one, if you're not taking advantage of those, pull your SAM out, pull that life cycle process out, and look at those requirements. You're just meeting the requirements that the state has provided for us to be able to get involved in that. So you may know that FTB deployed a rather large project recently. That project included both internal and external facing applications. And so you may think that you only really need to worry about those external facing applications. That's not true. Like Srini said, they might have a little bit more security requirements, but you want to make sure that your internal applications are just as secure. You don't want somebody leveraging a printer to get into your network and then getting into those applications. So super important to understand that, if somebody says to you, why are you worried about that? That only our employees can get to that. We trust them. Well, there's a reason, because they can use something else to get to that to cause you to end up being in a headline in the newspaper, right? None of us want that. So while we have had that in place for many years, or the security plans in place, and we were part of the approval process, we still have matured. And so really kind of what I want to do is focus on those things that we now are doing that we've matured into. On this major project that we produced, it was probably 10 years in the making. And I played a role in that project at the beginning. And so my first advice for you is to be an active participant in those early conversations. Know what your business partners want to accomplish. What are they trying to do? If you know what they're trying to accomplish, you're going to be a much better business partner as you're helping them do what they need to do securely, right? You stop being the no person, but you start being, because you're hearing what they want to do. Oh, I see what you're trying to do. I have a recommendation. Instead of doing it this way, the less secure way, let's talk about maybe trying this. Gets you what you need, and it does it more securely, right? Nobody wants to put out a product that's going to have to be pulled back. So it's hard. If you're a small staff, you might be saying, you know what, I don't have time for that. I've got to deal with operational things today. I'm suggesting make time for that. It's going to save you or your successor time on the back end, like Srini was saying. Stay active in the development lifecycle. Those requirements that you all agreed upon up front, including the security requirements, They're going to change a little bit, right? We're all familiar with the project development lifecycle that the state has to work through. It's there for a reason, but things are going to change. So stay involved in that process. Know what the change is. Be a good partner. If you're a good partner, they'll tell you where the meeting is that they're going to talk about that. If you're not a good partner, they're not going to tell you where the meeting is, and you're going to have to find them. Trust me, I've had to chase a few down. Test your releases. If you're doing your project in stages, test those releases in progress. Don't wait till the very end. Okay? Make sure, like Srini said, you're using those secure coding practices. And don't say, oh, we tested that the last cycle, so we're not going to test it this cycle, because I cannot tell you how many times we had no SQL injection, for example, in code. And then we would test the fixes of the defects, and places where we had no SQL injection would all of a sudden have SQL injection, and other things would be fixed. So people don't do that on purpose. They don't go back and say, let me go break something else. I'll teach them for finding something. But just make sure that you have a good process in place to look at the overall application, because people are moving fast. They're trying to meet those deadlines, and they make mistakes, or they pull the old code. They checked out the wrong code, whatever the case may be. Be a part of the go, no-go decisions. Understand clearly what those are. So we had no-go, no-go meetings sometimes 2 and 3 times a week. And we were an active part from a security perspective of those. We were also an active participant in the defect development list and the resolution of those. Become the business tester's best friend. You guys are going to share some of your environments. You're both in the same boat. Nobody wants to hear from either one of you. The testers and the security folks are the people that no one wants to hear from, right? So make friends with them. Be part of that. I know we're rapidly approaching time, so I want to share with you a few more things. You're never going to have all the resources that you need to do what you think you should do. Use a risk-based approach to figure out how you're going to deploy those resources. Where's your most riskiest exposure point? And make sure you cover that. I guarantee you, even in a large organization, you never have enough resources. With more people, you just have more people fighting for the resources. It doesn't necessarily make it easier. I can't emphasize enough, bring in an independent consultant. If you're a small organization, can't afford it, then bring in another department that maybe can help out, make friends with someone. But if you can, I can't recommend enough. I have a super, super smart team of folks who find a lot of defects, but it's great to have another set of eyes, because every time our independent consultant has found something that we still needed to remediate. So nothing's perfect. Don't forget, in COTS solution, everybody know what COTS is, commercial off the shelf? Sometimes they come prepackaged with vulnerabilities. So don't assume that you bought it off the shelf from a vendor, and it can be a high-name vendor, well-known. They sometimes come prepackaged. So test those as well if you're incorporating them or if you're deploying something like that as part of your project. If you find a vulnerability through one of your partners, let them know. We all rely on other people, some in-state, some outside of the state. If you find something when you're doing your reviews, reach out to them. We've done that multiple times. It's not to embarrass them. Sometimes we'll do it through a third party. But make sure that you're a good partner to other folks. If you've got a vulnerability, you'd rather a friend find it before the bad guy find it, right? So be a good partner on that. And then other than that, I challenge you to transform the process from whatever direction you can. If you're a business person, be a good business person in helping to get your business partners to understand why security is important. If you're on the IT side, recognize that your business partners have challenges as well, and try to be a good partner to them. And I know we're at time, so if you have any questions for me, I'm ready to stay afterwards a little bit. I have one question up here.
So for those people that answered questions earlier, come and get a special gift. If you have more questions, come by the booth, and you can probably get your special gift when we talk.
I have a quick question for Denise. Because of the state nature of where we are with skill sets, I often find myself as a manager struggling with struggling with how to build that skill sets with regards to security being on their primary for analysts, right, when you're gathering requirements. Because we have functional requirements, analysts that go do a great job with it, they know the business, but to how to ask those questions that are more security-based, so that is built part of that, overall requirement. So I struggle with it because I don't know what the state is offering right now from that skill sets perspective. There's training, and I would like to know more about how FTB kind of overcame that challenge.
It's a challenge that many people face, and frankly, there are not enough trained individuals out there right now. There is a shortage. You can read about it in any newspaper, right, or any news article. There is absolutely a shortage. We have found that we've had to do a lot of our own in-house training. And every time somebody gets stolen, because we get them trained up and then people go, oh, that's a great person, we die a little on the inside. But it's super important to do whatever you can in terms of, we have our compliance monitoring folks who have set our baselines and do our vulnerability management and testing for that. They'll hold work groups with coders, and they'll invite business folks to come in and kind of learn from the work group, or user group kind of a concept. Anybody that contacts FTB, we will do our best to share our material with our business partners, because we believe that even though we may be individual departments, we're all one big state, and we want the state to benefit from that. So I'm a firm believer in not recreating the wheel. Reach out through your agency ISO for other departments in your organization that might have some skill sets that you can leverage to come out and maybe do some training sessions. So be creative. We don't all have a lot of training dollars. Be creative about how you get that training in. Everybody can usually give an hour or two and do some training and that kind of thing. So think outside the box, because no one's going to come to your rescue with trained folks.
Yeah, and Denise talked about resources. In one of the companies I worked for, we literally had 450 people in security, and we still struggle for time. We could not, like she said, the work we had to do just expanded. We went from a 50-person team to a 450-person team, and we still couldn't meet all the requests customers are throwing at us. So it's not just, I have only 2 people in security, or I have 1,000 people in security. Work expands. And training, I think FTB is doing a great job on having security team train the coders. Hey, we found these issues. Next time you code, make sure you address these, right? Make sure you look at session cookies, make sure you look at secure cookies, HTTPS, and the nuggets that they can share.
That is an important point. When we do our vulnerability assessments, and mind you, we've been doing them for 18 years. We were doing them before they were even popular. We always make sure that we have the business folks and the IT folks in the room so they can hear the information, ask questions as well. Because one thing I found, for example, coders, they have a lot of passion about their code. They want it to be accurate. They don't want anybody to mess with it, and that includes the bad guys. So giving them the opportunity to hear it versus just saying, oh, no, don't come to this. We give them traditionally a technical session that's not the executive's debrief kind of thing, that becomes an education session of itself.
A lot of times for customers, we do that. When we give presentations, there's a executive briefing, and then there's a technical briefing. And sometimes a finance briefing, too, to help them out get some funding. And so there's different layers.
Anybody else have a question? If not, I have a follow-up question. I also wanted, you talked about COTS, right? So I want to understand, from a security perspective, we all go into looking at, okay, does this meet the baseline that I have, and from a business process perspective, does it meet the goals? How do you kind of inject that security, kind of requirements? Again, it's all about requirements. Would you understand what do you need? How does that particular either application in the custom built or COTS meets that, right? So a lot of I'm going to speak for my agency that I'm coming from. Transportation does a lot of research projects with universities. We don't go in and tell them that these are security requirements when you're doing your research project. We tell them this is kind of the, do something for us. We'll take it. We'll see what it is.
But are you giving them data?
We're not. Usually yes. There is that data that we supply sample data and stuff like that. But security is not the priority as part of the checklist. So, but then eventually, what happens, and the struggle that I continually face, is that it's no more a research project. They really like it. now they want a full-blown, and now where we are at deadline, as Srini was mentioning, and now I have to backtrack myself as to how do I now think about the security aspect before I implement this statewide.
So I would argue that anytime you're giving out your data, and especially when you know that that has a chance to morph into something else, that you are responsible for providing security requirements around that. I don't know what the data is, but even if you think it's obscure, if it could be used to somehow plan a master attack or whatever the case may be, it's got some value, right? So we have a safeguard checklist that we require any organization that we share data with to go through. And if they don't answer questions satisfactorily to us, then they may not get our data. And that goes for sometimes statutorily required data sharing. We're still the data owner. So I cannot, in all good conscience, turn it over to an organization when I believe they're not going to protect it at the level that we need it to be protected. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to turn it over. We might be statutorily mandated to do it, but we're going to talk about what mitigations need to be put in place first so that we don't end up in that situation. And we've chosen to do that through our MOUs, through our safeguard questionnaire, which we're happy to share, through also writing them into our procurement vehicles. So when you're going out for that commercial off-the-shelf product, you want to make sure that your security requirements are written into that. Do you need audit logging? What kind of audit logging? I mean, I had a vendor say, we have audit logging. We told you that this transaction happened at this time. And I said, yeah, but who did it? Well, you didn't say you needed that. Well, yeah, we kind of did. But it's super important because you want to get what you need out of that product. And I mean, we joke sometimes that the vendors are getting value out of us, and they should give us the product for free because we're finding their vulnerabilities and they're making their product better before we pay them. So,
God, I wish that's true. we'd get a lot of free products ourselves. And the other part of the question, I think, so Denise, she came with one perspective, and I'm thinking about, okay, you go off to university research, and so you develop a proof of concept in the university. At that time, you're not thinking about security. You're just thinking about, can it be done? Right? I mean, it's thinking like our autonomous driving. Can it be done? Okay, now how do we make it secure? How do the vehicles talk to each other so there's no collision? So once the POC is done and before we bring it in-house and say, hey, now let's work on it, start thinking about security. So you already took care of the first functional requirements. Now talk about security requirements. How will this impact our environment? What will it expose? Can it be used to pivot into a different will it morph into something else, or can they use it to pivot into the network or into a different database? So that's important too. That's where you take it from the proof of concept planning into the requirements phase.
Thank you.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Awesome.